Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. I hope you're doing well. This is the show, I'm going to do it, where we get under the hat of some of the most important topics in franchising. So, what do? Each week, we take a different topic and we have a deep delve into that topic, and we have a lovely guest. And today is absolutely no exception to that. We have a lovely guest and a lovely topic. So today the topic is franchise jargon. So we are going to try and unravel some of the complications, the misconceptions, the phrases that we all use in franchising. So if you're watching this and you're new to franchising, then hopefully we can pick apart some of these phrases and help you get to the bottom of what they are. So today we have a lovely guest, and it's Ron Bender, and he is coming to us from not quite so sunny Florida today. In fact, Ron told me there's a potential hurricane on the way, so it could get a bit windy, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. Anyway, Ron, welcome to the Franchise Show. It's fantastic to have you with us.
Oh, thank you so much, Harvey. I love helping out, and I watch your show, so I'm glad to be actually on it again.
You are starring in it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, what I'm going to do, we've already got some people here, but before I introduce the people that are here today, Ron, perhaps you could just introduce yourself, tell our wonderful audience all about what it is that you do, and then we'll get into this fantastic conversation.
Great. My name is Ron Bender. I've been in franchising for 27 years. I started years ago in operations and franchise sales, and then specialized in franchise sales for the last basically 25 years. I have also been involved in franchise operations, franchise training, franchise onboarding, franchisee, franchisor relations, a lot of different topics. I'm currently the VP of Franchise Development for a company called French Florist, which is a retail and e-commerce flower shop based in Los Angeles. I know we have at least one listener from gloomy Los Angeles. He knows.
We do, and we're going to put him up right now.
And I'm also very, very active in the International Franchise Association. I've been in the industry a long time. It's my turn to give back. I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of speaking and presentations. And I'm also on the Vet Fran Committee, which is a nonprofit designed to educate veterans and their families on the opportunities in franchising, and then encourage them to be in the franchise community.
Fantastic. Well, that is a lovely and a thorough introduction. So thanks very much for that, Ron. I want to pick up on a couple of bits before we get to who's with us. I love the fact that you put that you want to give back. Actually, I think there's a lot of people in franchising that feel that way, and I think it's wonderful that you want to try and introduce a new generation and pass on that vast knowledge that you've built up over those years. It's rapidly becoming a passion of mine to help younger people get into franchising. So yeah, it's fantastic to hear that. Let's have a quick look at who is with us so far today. So we have a LinkedIn user that said hello. Well, hello to you too. Let us know who you are. Sometimes your privacy settings will make your name not appear here, so let us know. But great to have you, whoever you are. We have Natalia here, and Natalia's put, I'm really looking forward to this. Well, so are we. It's great to have Natalia with us. Natalia is a legal beagle and an expert in all things franchise laws and agreements and all that sort of thing. So great to have you here. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on jargon. And I think in the legal world, there's plenty of that. So perhaps suggest a few things that you might think our audience might be interested in finding out what they are. So we also, and you mentioned, Ron, that we've got somebody from Los Angeles, not just somebody, it's the fantastic Johnny Joseph. Johnny is a franchise auditor, so he's making sure everything is shipshape. And he travels the country doing that. Oh, my cat's coming past, proving it's live. And he's put, hi, franchise family from a cool, gloomy Los Angeles. Well, it's always good to have you here, whatever the weather. We have the ever wise Simon Wise. He's very wise. And he's put, hello, franchise friends. Well, it's great to have you here, Simon. And looking forward to hearing your thoughts on franchise jargon, terminology, misconceptions, all of these things. So if you are here live, even if you haven't made a comment and you're listening, but if you are here live and if it's somewhere around 5 until about 6 o'clock UK time, then you can make a comment and we'll have a chat about it. Because this show is all about you. It's all about the people, the community, and trying to stir up some interesting questions and some thoughts. So finally, we have got the wonderful Penny Hopkinson. Now, I will put your QR code on because Penny is one of our lovely sponsors, but I've got a book. And is it going to be the right way around today? It is. And that's Penny's book all about franchise operations. So it's always good to have you here, Penny. I hope you're well. Let us know your thoughts today as well on franchise operations and the jargon and the misconceptions that are in that world. So, look, we've got a couple of questions already come in now, Ron. Are you ready to tackle a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Good, good. Let's have a look. So we're going to start off with a comment here by Simon. He's put, do we put potential franchisees off by using too much jargon in the public domain when talking about franchising? Really great question, Simon. What do you make of this one, Ron?
Well, I absolutely agree with that, Simon, that we do indeed intimidate people when we use either industry specific or franchise specific jargon. I know it happens all the time. I see when I'm on LinkedIn or other social media, or when I see and hear interviews where people are just, everything's a piece of jargon, everything's a shortening and nobody understands. And they, rather than ask and feel stupid, they just go on about their business and ignore it. It's a darn shame. And I try, whenever I do social media posting and so forth, I try to eliminate the jargon, or at least introduce it, define it, and then use the jargon so that we don't have that trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely, and a great question there, Simon. And I think you're absolutely right, Ron. It's up to franchisors and the franchise community to speak in a language that people who are new to the industry can understand, or at least, as you say, when we are talking industry sort of specific terminology, then explain it. So let's have a look at what Penny has said here. So Penny has put, much franchise jargon emulates from individual franchises. I would always add a glossary to the ops manual. Is there another way you'd recommend? So this is really interesting, Penny, and Penny is an ops manual specialist, and I suppose having that ops manual and having any book, you get a glossary of terms that you can explain, but perhaps there's some more engaging ways to get that terminology across. What's your thoughts?
Well, I would, I'd love to have a better way. One of the things that I've always done when we've had a discovery day, which is bringing candidates in, having them meet the rest of the management team or the different support departments and so forth, I've always had to be the translator, because each department, based on its specialty, has their own internal jargon. And too often they use that jargon when they're having this great conversation with someone who's absolutely at the end getting ready to make their decision on whether that's the right franchise for them. And it can be off-putting. And I always sit in on that meeting so that I can do that translation and make sure that my candidate isn't going to be intimidated by the different types of jargon out there. But when the finance people or the marketing people are talking, or the HR people who are helping with recruiting and training, they're going to throw these terms out there, and the franchisee might get that glazed over look. So I try to, early on in the process of educating a candidate about the opportunity, I try to introduce the standard industry jargon, if there is such. And I think that's what Penny might be talking about here, where different industries have their own specific jargon. But then I also try to introduce all the normal jargon that is used inside the franchising community, because that's obviously pretty foreign to most people as well.
Absolutely.
The glossary is.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Penny. I really do. And Penny knows great ways to make an ops manual come alive and more appealing to perhaps a new generation, with video, with social media content, those sorts of things, and incorporating some of those phrases can make people feel more familiar and understand them in context as well.
Sure.
Let's get to a few examples of some of these, because I think when people are listening, it's great to talk about this in general, but let's take one. So let's take a mumbo. That's a new one, isn't it? And I thought that was just a song as well, and I was going to list them, and I was going to leave that until number 5, but
perfect.
But look, let's get into it. So what is a mumbo? Let's go for this one.
What is a mambo? So let's make sure that's not a UK term. What is a mambo to you, Harvey?
Okay, so multi-unit,
brand operator.
Yes.
Yep. There are a lot of franchises that have this target. They think the golden goose is someone who owns a lot of franchises already. And this multi-unit means they have more than obviously one location or one operation. And multi-brand means they are not just specialized in one. Mumbos are hard to find and also hard to sell to. But again, a ton of franchisors think that all they have to do is get a couple of those and their business is going to explode and build up great. But it's a very, very small percentage of the franchise community that even uses the term.
Absolutely. What do you think one of the first things, if you were looking as a franchisee now, so you're thinking maybe I'll start to look at a franchise business, what do you think one of the first pieces of jargon or one of the first terminologies you're going to come up against, when you start to look at a franchise? I mean, I suppose it's the word franchise. We're going to explain that to a lot of people.
As a matter of fact, one of the things that I get a chance to do is present basics of franchising course for franchise expos and other types of events. And the first thing that we do is we define the franchisor and the franchisee, so that people understand that the franchisor is the company that generated this system of business in whatever industry, and they're the ones that provide the training and the support and the intellectual property. And the franchisee is the one who pays for the license, who then uses the business processes and system of the franchisor to launch and grow their business. But you're right. A lot of people get those confused, or they don't understand, or God forbid, we're going to call them the Zor and the Z instead of franchisor and franchisee. There's your jargon.
Yeah, absolutely. The Zors. That's an up and down business, isn't it?
It would definitely be.
Absolutely. And that's really interesting to hear that you teach that basics of franchising, and because as a new person to franchising, that's really what you should be looking at first. You're you're about to choose a franchise business, but understand the industry and understand what it all means first. So it's perhaps a good start for anyone looking to get into franchising, is to really understand what it is. So we have a comment here from Julie Waits. Julie is a lovely franchising enthusiast, expert, and professional here in the UK. Does a monthly networking event called First Friday, which I've been to quite a few times. Fantastic. Do join that and connect with Julie. And Julie's put good evening from a gloomy northeast of England. And yes, I agree. Great subject. So easy for us to get wrapped up in the jargon. Absolutely, Julie. And it's fantastic to have you here. Let us know your thoughts on and your experiences. You know, what jargon have you come up against in the past? You know, what have people asked you that perhaps we as franchise people might understand, but if you're not in franchising, it would be absolute nonsense. Let's have a look. We've got a big comment that won't even fit on the screen. It's going to hide Ron. I would suggest this. You're going to have to look over the top of this comment, Ron. And Simon has put, I believe that if we are to attract the younger generation into franchising, we must communicate it in a more user-friendly fashion. Between the franchise community, franchising is a sophisticated business tool that demands more technical discussion. But for the franchisee, it's much simpler. It's a replication, and it has to be communicated as a value proposition, not a user manual or technical blueprint. Yes. What do you make of this one? As a franchisee, we do need to simplify it, don't we? You know, make it about that value proposition. Value proposition, maybe we can talk about that, because you know that could be considered to some people as jargon. So let's pick this one apart. What do you make of this fantastic comment by Simon?
Well, I agree that communicating the value proposition, and a value proposition means what makes that an attractive opportunity or option, right? The value proposition is why anyone would get value out of this specific opportunity, let's say. So I think the overall comment is absolutely slap on, because many franchisors, first of all, seem to believe that their system is so good that any monkey could sign up and would be successful. I am absolutely not in agreement with that. I try very carefully to present that a franchisee, someone who buys that franchise and has to launch and grow the business with the help and the resources of the franchisor, they have to put their own spin on it. They have to use their own life experiences and their own personality and their own connections and their own efforts to really make that business successful. So if the value proposition isn't strong enough, if the competition is too big, or if the community doesn't welcome that service or that product, well, there's no true value to the franchise in that specific circumstance. So as long as we give them the understanding of here's the system, here's how you follow it, and then after you've learned the system and practiced it, we need your help improving the system. But don't improve the system before you've learned it, right? Don't tell us that our system isn't good before you've experimented with it, or, you know, perhaps you shouldn't sign up for any franchise if that's how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, putting your own take on a franchise business, it's a really interesting thing you've come up with there, because as when you're trying to attract a franchisee into your business, you are looking for someone with an entrepreneurial nature, because they've got to grow a business. Yes, they've been given a model, a proven model, a framework to do that within, the support, but they've got to have that same drive and determination to grow a business as someone who's trying to do that on their own. But quite often what comes with that is an independent nature to want to do it however they want to do it, doesn't it?
Yes, there does. Yep, that's a pretty normal concern in the franchise side.
Absolutely. Let's have a look. We've got a few more comments come in, and this show is all about you. It's all about our community. So it's great to have people here. Now we all know Jason Kaber. It's fantastic to have you here, Jason, from SeoSamba, and your QR code is up, my friend. What a coincidence. And Jason has put, hey, Harvey and Ron. It's great to have you here. And we have another comment from Jason. So let's get into this one. Jason has put, Ron, what is your take on the term selling franchises versus awarding a franchise? Jason, brilliant question, first of all. I love that because that's a real sort of mindset shift, isn't it? What is your take on this one?
Well, many years ago when I started in the industry or in the business model, whatever you want to call it, it was all about selling a franchise. And at that point, I think everybody thought you were selling, you were convincing someone to buy your franchise versus not buying a franchise or versus buying someone else's franchise brand. And then, of course, we got into this really great terminology of awarding. And the reality is that the franchisor decides on a periodic basis whether they are selling or awarding. So here, unfortunately, here's what I mean by that. When there are internal pressures, then they are selling franchises. They are pushing hard to get more franchises sold for all the reasons that they might need to grow, whether it's franchise fee revenue or getting more units open so that they can build the valuation of the franchisor to sell it to private equity or who knows what. When things are going well and the royalty streams are nice and healthy, then we get to step back and we get to award franchises. Oftentimes when it's a public company, there's pressure almost all the time to sell versus award. But the best of franchises resist that pressure at all times if they can, and they concentrate on awarding. Awarding basically means matching a great fit candidate to the opportunity that's going to give them the ability to attain their goals, and that they will get not only financial gains, but also satisfaction from. So awarding, I certainly would much rather be awarding a franchise at all times. And I've learned that there are some franchisors that I can't be associated with because they're way too focused on selling.
Love this question, Jason, because it's if you're awarding, like you say, it's a real positive mindset of a franchisor, because when you are awarding, if you get an award, if it's a win-win, isn't it? You're trying to create a situation where you are choosing and the franchisee is choosing you, and there is a good alignment there. And if you can take your time and choose the right person to work with, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you were to start a business, and let's say it's your first hire, you do that very, very carefully, for that business partner, as it would be at the beginning. Or if you were to go into business and you wanted to go into a partnership with somebody else, it would have to be somebody that you really trust, that really aligns with what you want to do, complements what you want to do. This is perhaps another thing we could get into about whether we use the word franchise partner, but let's not yet, because, and we will get to that, but because we've got a few people here that I want to recognize that are here. So we have Don Cohen here. Don is a fantastic friend and colleague of mine. And he taught me all I know about live streaming. So if you value what I do, please connect with Don, because he is fantastically talented and an amazing teacher. So yes, and he's put, really enjoy being here with my good friend and colleague Harvey and esteemed guest Ron on one of my favorite LinkedIn live stream events. Well, thank you, Don. You were a lovely chap and the feeling is mutual. We've got a great big comment coming from Johnny Joseph. I'm going to put up this comment. We've got Joe Caruso here. Always fantastic to have you here, Joe. Wonderful chap. Himself and Mike Webster and Ned Liley, I think. Forgive me if I got your surname wrong, Ned. But do a fantastic audio show all about franchising that I've been a big fan of for many years. So catch the replays of that and you'll get some exceptional value from that. So Joe's put, hey, Ron Bender and the illustrious Harvey Tuck. Wow, thanks very much there, Joe. Mumbo jumbo. Well, absolutely. I was tempted to use that expression, but absolutely, it certainly can be that way. Let's take another comment here from Joe, because this is an interesting one. And Joe's put, franchisors should professionally sell franchises to people who are qualified with character, capital, and capabilities, all the C's. Franchisors who are good at this are about making superb matches in their franchise recruitment. What do you make of that one, Ron?
Well, I agree 100%. I've known Joe and Mike and Ned for a lot of years and learned a lot from them over the years. And I definitely agree with this comment. I can also tell you that when you look at, you're trying to get to know a candidate in this process, the candidate's trying to get to know you and the entire brand, and you're looking to make sure that they would be a fit for the culture of the franchisor, for the mission of the franchisor, and for the style of business, of course. And that's not necessarily all science. A lot of that is art. And I know, if I have a chance to get to know a candidate, whether it's via Zoom or phone calls, as we used to do it in the old days. Nowadays, you're not allowed, apparently, to offer franchises without doing video calls. So it seems like we do a lot of those. But, you try to read body language. You try to ask questions that give you a little deeper insight into that person's character. As you say, you definitely want to fit for character and obviously for capital and capabilities. But that's a lot of that is art. It's not all science. So the best franchise recruiters do a terrific job about that. And they don't get it wrong often at all. So that's what we want in every franchisor.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joe. Really, really good comment. I love this show, the fact that we are a community that has a discussion to add value to our industry. This is what this is all about. It's community first. So love that. And I love the fact that you mentioned there character, capital, capabilities. I've written that down. I learn a lot on this show. So thank you, Joe. It's fantastic. Let's have a look, introduce another person that's joined us. And we've got Stephen Hopper from the UK, has started a burrito company. I'm hoping I'm getting the right person. And I met him very recently at the franchise exhibition. And he has started a company called Plan Burrito. So nice. We will see big things, I'm sure, from Stephen in the burrito world in the months and years to come. And Stephen's put, great to see you at the franchise show, Harvey. Love this show. Well, it's great to have you here. And as a person who's relatively new as being a franchisor, I'd really be interested, Stephen, in your thoughts on the jargon you've heard as you got into the industry and as you've started to grow your burrito business. So please come in with a comment. We're going to go to a comment from Johnny Joseph in a moment, but before I forget, we were going to talk about the term franchise partners, and it's one I do want to talk about because it's a term that is definitely used when a franchisor is looking for a franchisee. They sometimes refer to that potential franchisee or a franchisee that's already signed and with them as a franchise partner. But there's an argument to say it's not a partnership, or it should be a partnership, or it shouldn't. What's your take on that term, how it's used what it means?
Wow. I think the word franchisee is bland, right? It doesn't really communicate that much. I know that some attorneys are very, very leery of us using the term franchise partner because this is a contract agreement. It is actually not a legal partnership, and they believe that it can get you into legal trouble if you actually continually refer to this person as a partner. I just recently heard a few weeks ago at the Springboard Conference, which is a wonderful conference for emerging franchisors here in the Philadelphia area of the U.S. I heard we always want to call them franchise owner. They own their business. They are the reason. And I love that, although it's going to take me a long time to make that a habit. I would like to make that habit. So, I know a lot of great franchise companies that do use the term partner, franchise partners, and I'm A-okay with it. But I try not to use that because my attorneys have warned me off it before.
Well, good advice there, Ron. And you know what, franchise owner, that's a good piece of terminology to use. It describes quite well what that franchisee is. They do own their own business, but it's always tricky, isn't it, when we're looking at terminology, when we're looking at jargon. What we're really saying here is there's lots of it, and what you should do is seek expert advice on it all. And you'll have attorneys and solicitors and advisors and different perspectives that can give you that advice and really make you understand exactly what it is that you're getting into. So I think that this sort of thing, this show, other resources are here to inspire some thought, so that you don't just go in and, like Ron said right at the top of the show, that you read some jargon that you don't fully understand, but you don't want to ask about it because it would make you look foolish, or it would delay proceedings. Whatever your reasoning for not quizzing it, you should quiz it. You should get every perspective you can, every angle you can, and really understand all these terms so that you know what it is that you're getting into, because ultimately then you'll have that alignment and success, I'm sure, will be easier. Right. So let's have a look. We've got a few more comments coming in from Stephen and from Simon. But before we get into that, if you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show. And today we are talking franchise jargon with the lovely Ron Bender. So it's been a fantastic conversation so far, and we are only just getting into it. But let's have a look. We have a comment from Stephen here. Let's have a look. So Stephen has put, is it important for franchisors to address the royalty fee, now known as franchise management fee? This is great. This is a great question, because even the term royalty can be jargon to people who are not in the know. Right. So perhaps we should now, unravel the term royalty, what that means, and franchise management fee, and are they the same?
Well, in the UK, royalty means something quite different than it means on this side of the pond. But
that's very true.
So, Stephen, I'm not a fan of using the term franchise management fee, and one of the reasons is that there are some folks in the franchise community who are proclaiming the opportunity to buy a franchise, run it completely absentee, and pay the franchisor or some third party a management fee to actually operate that business. I absolutely hate that idea, and I would never be party to a brand that chose to do that because I just feel so strongly about it. But I don't think I want to refer to an ongoing fee as a management fee, although, it's for the franchisor employees who are managing the franchise system, I guess. But I do always explain what a royalty is and what it gets to that new franchise owner. That royalty is an ongoing fee for the maintenance and continual improvement of the franchise program and the assistance that they provide during the operation for the entire term of that franchise relationship, right? So it's not just for improvements and changes. It's not just for maintenance. It's not just for support. It's so many different things. And I know that if you start off your franchisor relationship strong, and you've explained not only what the royalty means, but you've shown that there is continual value, that you don't have these long-term relationship issues when someone's been a franchisee for years and they look at an end of year accounting and realize how much they've paid in royalty, and they wonder what indeed they're still paying that royalty for, because they don't feel that they're getting enough from the franchisor to support that payment. That's a problem. So we want to start this off from the beginning with all of the great things that this royalty provides. But again, I don't prefer calling it a management fee.
Fantastic. Great question, Stephen. And it's a very important phrase to look at and to touch upon today, the royalty. Because it's definitely a terminology that is used pretty much in every franchise business. So great question. Let's have another quick look. We've got a few more coming in here from Joe, a couple from Joe, one from Julie, one from David Moffat as well. So, but before we get to those, Simon has put franchise recruitment, a science or an art? Now, there's a great topic for discussion. It certainly is. And Simon is a franchise recruiter, so he may well be the man to have that discussion. But it certainly is great. Thanks for your comment there, Simon. First of all, I'd like to welcome David Moffat to the show. I met David at the Franchise Exhibition in Birmingham. And we had a long Zoom call together as well. Fantastic chap, works for Beau Paran here in the UK and is growing an exciting brand with them. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say what that is and where they're growing. If I am, David, let me know in a comment. But it's great to have you here, David. And David's put, partnerships suggest that they can make changes, not follow system. Franchise owner is clear. Yeah, I think you're right. Going back to this term franchise partner, I think you're absolutely right. A partnership can suggest all sorts of things that it's not. And like you say, a legal term partner is a very, very different thing than a franchisee, or what we are now perhaps saying as franchise owner. I like that one. And I'm going to start trying getting used to that. So fantastic. Let's have a look at another comment here from Joe. And Joe's put, funny thing that happens when talking with franchisees. Use franchise owners, and when complaining about them, people say franchisee. Yes, very interesting. What do you make of this one then, Ron? Definitely the language is going to change depending on the mood, perhaps.
Well, probably then franchisee is the best term to use, considering what other terms might be used in that case. I try not to be frustrated with franchisees, and I'm sure they try to not be frustrated with me. I absolutely would love to call them franchise owners all the time. And again, my friend Mary Kennedy Thompson is the one who said franchise owner is the great term to use. That's who communicated that to me. And I think the rationale is the more that you consider them, the more that you call them owners, the more you realize they are owners. They are not just automatons. They are not your employees. They are thinking beings that own and have a lot of responsibilities. And I really, really do like that idea. The other thing is I love the fact that franchise companies don't refer to the franchise owner as their location, right? They're not Unit 58. They're not Birmingham North. They're not, right? They're the franchise owner. And if you're not going to use their name, at least call them franchise owner. I think that is respectful and the least we should do.
They are not a number. You've got to be of a certain age to understand that joke. There was
Yep.
a show called The Prisoner.
Yep.
Let's have a little look. We've got some great questions coming in, actually. First of all, David Moffat has put, yes, you can. Oh, okay. So he's going to be growing the brand Carl's Jr. here in the UK.
Oh, nice.
So it's going to be a very exciting one, and he's busy looking for new franchise owners. And it's going to be a very exciting journey to watch. We've got a comment coming up from Julie, another one from Joe, and a comment from Jason. And we've got about 10 minutes, so we're going to get into these. Let's have a look at Julie's. Ladies first. Julie has put, I think the key to it all is to enable understanding. The terms can be confusing, and that's not good. Our role is to ensure that potential franchisees are fully informed before they make a decision, so they understand their role and responsibilities before they join the system and not get a surprise afterwards. Absolutely, Julie. Yeah, spot on. Let's have a look at one here from Joe. Joe's put, important to distinguish with distinction, distinguish with distinction, the difference between standard defined terms and inside baseball speak or jargon. Yes, absolutely. What do you make of this one, Ron?
Well, that's actually very insightful, Joe. One of the things, and I noticed an earlier question, which was about the definition of sales and the definition of profit. Most brands have their own classifications, but they need to state very clearly, are they talking about gross sales? Are they talking about gross sales minus tax? Are they talking about net profit? Are they talking about gross profit? And if it's gross profit, what has been taken out of that to make it gross versus net? It's so many different financial terms. And one that's bandied about all the time, and I'm surprised no one brought this up yet, is AUV. Everybody is talking nowadays AUV, average unit volume. Average unit volume only has anything to do with a conversation about one specific brand, right? What is their average unit volume? Is that important to me? I guess that's gross revenue. Do I care what the gross revenue is? I care what the net revenue is. I want to know what I, as a franchise owner, am going to take home. But AUV is spoken about a lot because it's a buzzword, and I absolutely agree. Here's the question from Johnny.
Yeah, let's read Johnny's question out, and I think we've touched upon that perfectly, actually. But Johnny's put, in the financial space, the word profit is subject to interpretation. Could be gross profit, net profit, profit before tax. Likewise, sales could be gross sales, net sales, sales before or after sales taxes, sales before or after credit card fees. It's important to define terms like profit and sales in the franchise agreement and the FDD. Oh, someone's mentioned it. I knew we would get there.
Yep, I can't believe it. We went this long without it.
I know. We almost got to the end. Well, look, we've got some great questions, and we may have to go on another couple of minutes, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about FDDs. Here in the UK, we don't work with an FDD or a franchise disclosure document, but certainly in the US, you do. So, Ron, quickly, what do you make of an FDD, and what is it to a franchisor and to a franchisee?
Sure. Well, to a franchisor, it is the guide of what we need to make sure that every franchise candidate is aware of and has a full understanding of before they should be allowed to enter into a franchise agreement. Franchise agreement obviously is the license agreement. To a franchisee, an FDD is really the rules and regulations of that franchise opportunity and it's a terrific tool for researching the franchise opportunity and comparing it to others. And before we get into whether there's a financial performance representation, or how much are existing franchisees making, there are so many parts of that disclosure document that are really critical for a franchise candidate to understand. And it also gives them contact information for every existing franchisee and the ones that have recently left, so that they can actually get validation and speak to those franchisees to determine how happy they are with the franchise that they've signed on with.
Absolutely. And it's all part of what Julie said about understanding what it is that you're getting into, and these documents, although perhaps hard work, are all part of that. It's part of conveying that message, and it can be a positive thing, even though it's hard work to sift your way through one of these documents. There are very important elements to that. Let's have another quick look at a few more comments before we start to wrap up today. Johnny has put, often a good idea to include examples to clarify terms for the royalty calculation. Yeah. What do you think about this, Ron? I think it is a good idea when we're talking about royalties and we're talking about collecting that, put that in an example.
Wow. That's a great idea. It's something, Johnny, that I had not thought of before, but when we communicate to a candidate that we're charging let's say it's a 6% royalty on gross sales, we're going to have to explain how we come up with the number of gross sales. And as you said, is it before or after sales tax, credit card fees, discounts, coupons, all the in-kind transactions or whatever, and then 6% times that equals X, and that's what we're going to bill you for. Let's say it's on the 10th of the following month or whatever. It is a great idea to give a little bit more of a clear example of what those royalties look like.
Yes, absolutely. This is all about communication and trying to communicate what it is a franchisor is offering and what it is a franchisee is going to be getting themselves into, and trying to do that as clearly as possible and use the best language that we possibly can. We are starting to get towards the end of today. It's been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I always learn a lot myself. I hope if you've been listening to this, it's started to unpick some of the jargon we hear in franchising. We could probably do another 2 hours on the FDD alone, but I'm sure we will have another one of these. We didn't get to talk about your fantastic work that you do with veterans and franchising. So, Ron, I'm going to ask you, can you come back? Because I want to talk all about that as a separate episode. And I'm putting you on the spot here, but Ron, can you come back at some point, maybe next year, and talk all about franchising for our wonderful veterans?
Absolutely, Harvey. I love being on your show. I'm happy to do it again whenever you'd like.
That's fantastic. Well, look, we are definitely going to be talking about that possibly in the first part of next year. So look out for that episode. I'd like to thank everyone who has been here today. It's been a fantastic conversation. Before I get into what's happening this week and next week on both our shows, Ron, I'd like to give you a bit of an opportunity just to let people know the best way to get in touch with you, and a little bit about your current business and what you do.
Oh, thank you, Harvey. I am very easily found on LinkedIn as Ron Bender, CFE, Certified Franchise Executive. I am also easy to reach at ronbender7@gmail.com. And the terrific franchise brand I'm with is French Florist, a really unique retail and e-commerce local florist, just expanding from its base in Los Angeles. It's an absolutely amazing and high satisfaction business. You're spreading joy all the time by delivering beautiful flower arrangements. And if any of you are coming to the Franchise Expo, Austin, Texas, or the National Franchise Show in Pasadena, California in November. We'll be exhibiting there, and we'd love to see you. But contact me anytime, any questions. I'm thrilled to help out any way I can. And I'm always open to great new contacts from folks who are involved in the beautiful franchise community.
Beautiful, and a perfect end, Ron. Thank you again for your time today. It's been a really good conversation. I always enjoy our chats. Thank you to everyone who has been listening, who has put in their questions, who's joined us live tonight. And thank you to everyone who watches this in the future. And I hope it's of some use to you. So what's happening this week on our sister show, Franchising Brand Stories? This Thursday, we are doing an unveiling. We're taking the curtain off the new British Franchise Association report and survey, which is going to give us lots of really useful and interesting information if you're looking at creating a franchise, at being a franchisee, and it's going to be a really, really valuable one. So that is going to be this coming Thursday, and it's going to be at 4:30 UK time, so slightly different time. And the ever wise Simon Wise is going to be taking the helm for this episode. So I will be trying to join in the comments for this one. Different for me. And next week on the Franchise Show, we are talking to Nadine Thompson from National Event Management, and we are talking all about franchising in Canada and telling face-to-face franchising and all sorts of things like that. So if you want to find out what it's like to franchise in Canada, then join us next Tuesday, the 15th of October, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until then, my friends, have a fantastic week ahead and cheerio.